Hi, Jen Gilchrist here, your intuitive success mentor, and I am excited to share this topic with you today because I really do believe this topic of having a morning routine that really works for you, right? It might look a little different for each person, but having a morning routine that really works for you is really essential. For me, I know it's been an essential foundation to create my success and sustain my success and be able to expand and elevate into bigger levels by creating that which I desire, okay? So this was something that came up in my Soul Inspired Leaders Collective group, and I thought that I would share it here with all of you as well. And I'm also going to answer a question I had, which was around feeling overwhelmed, right? Do you ever feel overwhelmed? You can let me know in the comments below with all the choices as an entrepreneur, all the steps to take, all the technology to learn, like what do I prioritize and focus on, and the frustration or stress around not really knowing what steps to take. So if this is interesting to you, you might want to share this out with your friends. If you have other spiritual entrepreneurs that could benefit from this, say hi as you're hopping on, whether you're live or on the replay. Love to see who's here and where you're from. And from there, we'll just go ahead and dive in. So the first step is, the question I was asked was just, what is your morning routine? And I love this question because it really, really, truly is an essential foundation. I believe we manifest and create our own life. We co-create with the universe, our desires, and our businesses. And so this is really practical tools that help you, own all aspects of your energetic and creative side, as well as the tangible, practical action steps that you need to take in order to create a successful business, right? So for me, the first thing to know is just prioritizing time on your calendar. I think it's really starting with making a commitment and having the consistency for any morning routine is helpful. The more you put in, the more you get out. Just like working out. If you work out once a week, it's going to be like, you'll probably feel a little better than if you didn't, but not great. Whereas if you're doing it 3 times or even 5 times, you're going to see more compounding results, right, in your life. And so that is really true with the morning's routine too. For me, I find it essential, like 2 things that I have, like this is what I start with, is meditation and journaling. And I work with people a lot. And so I think that, there's not one regimented way that a morning routine is going to be exactly perfect, right? Some of you, I work in the Akashic Records, and we all have our own unique manifesting blueprint. And some people need that structure of like something the same every single day. That works well. And for some people need a little variety, right? And so you do need to kind of take this information and make it your own, of course. Hi, Anna Breeze. Oh, thank you for joining. And so the first thing, for sure, meditation is a huge, huge piece of it. Using that time, for me, I like to I dedicate about an hour, but I consider this starting out as my morning ritual that moves into my creative process of divine downloads and how I create my content and so on. But just commit to a time that you can say, right, even 15 or 30 minutes a day, and put it into your calendar so that you actually are doing it. It's like making an appointment with yourself will be helpful. And then you can build from there. It'll start to become something that you value, time and space that you realize is something that is how you do your creativity and create content from, and that you just really get to be the creator and manifester of your life. Another tip I'll give around that is, for me, I found it's really essential to not hop right into Facebook, right? I notice the days that I might jump out of bed and then, or maybe in bed, right, and start looking at the email or the Facebook, and that really starts my whole entire day from the space of responding to demands and expectations of others. I'm not even grounded in my body yet, and here I've taken in all this outside information, and it really, the whole day goes a bit differently. So I kind of try to set myself up for success by choosing to just go within first thing. Like for me, it works in the morning. Some people may prefer evening. If you do like more of your stuff at night in terms of your journaling, you could just at least set maybe 5 minutes for like tuning in and setting your intention for the day. I would recommend in the morning, and really take that time. So for me, it looks like, we'll say 30 minutes to an hour. And it's kind of split evenly between, or not always evenly, just from day to day, between the meditation and the journaling. I like to tune in, ground. I have a whole energetic mastery course I teach around this, where you're really just tuning into your body, you're connecting, you're calling your energy, you're getting present, and then you start using your visualization tools, right? Like, what do you want your day to be? I always like to set my intention for my day, call in my angels, my spiritual support team, right, to guide and help me be in alignment with my highest path and purpose. Like sometimes we don't know what the day is going to be or which thing to prioritize. And I find when I tune in, connect, and really just ask, what is, the most aligned steps for me to take today? What does that look like? Help me stay on path. It really just creates that intention within myself, my soul self, as well as just watching the synchronicity and the nudges and the inspiration that come in, right? And then it becomes a very productive, inspired day, and more gets done. And the second piece is the journaling. The journaling, we create our lives, right? And so using that journaling time, sometimes it might be if I'm stressed or in resistance, I may use the journaling time for moving through some of the resistance and resetting the energy in a different way. If it's or it might just be mindset, where I'm really manifesting and writing out, to anchoring in that which I'm creating for myself, through IMs or through writing out my future self, what I want my week or day to look like, or a particular project I might be working on, right? I use that time to just be my creative space. So those are the two main things I do. I also think, though, that the overall balance, like having a certain level of self-care, I'll always notice when I haven't been taking the time to exercise or eat healthy or get massages, because the stress and the overwhelm start to kick in. So for me, just the overall balance of life, I can tell things start to move more quickly, and ideas come more easily. Clients started calling me, it's like everything moves much more in flow state when I prioritize me, right? You can't really give from an empty cup. I like to call it filling up your own love cup. And so pretty soon it's just going to be that space that you enjoy and cherish for yourself. And for me, it's really, again, the beginning of the workday. So I like to set an hour. You can start with 15 or 30 minutes if that works for you. And even on days that I may be in a rush or slept in and just didn't have the time for it, I will always take at least 5 minutes. Just say, okay, let me connect, let me ground into my body, let me set my intention, and call in that higher spiritual support, angels, God, universe, your higher self, however you like to connect with that infinite larger part of you, right? So say hello as you're hopping on so I can see who's here. And so that's really the core part. I'd love to know, do you guys have a morning routine? Do you have a favorite ritual? I always think it does involve a little bit of body movement. I know I got a little sluggish over the winter, and so it's just like me building that habit back in. But I noticed that, when we move our body or even stretch or take a walk or include exercise and healthy eating, our vibration raises, our communication between our spirit and our body, which is really our intuition. It's really connecting with that intuitive insight and synchronicity, so that we know what steps to take. Also, that has a big bearing on it. What I put into my body, being a highly sensitive person, it matters, right? Essential oils are a wonderful way to also raise your vibration. So these are all things that I encompass and I look at as a part of my business, right? I consider it being part of my workday. It's a non-negotiable aspect. Is it always perfect? No, right? It's a whole lot better than it used to be, though. And I do recognize very quickly when I am not doing one piece of that. If I'm not exercising or if I'm not meditating, the stress, the overwhelm, the mind chatter, the confusion, the procrastination, like all of that fear gets to kind of drive my creative process instead of me. And so that's where I really have just gotten to where I cherish it. I love it. It feels great. I feel empowered. I feel inspired. And then usually from that meditation space, it just kind of moves into my workday. That's where I'll work on, like, what's a blog I want to share for the day. It's like when you start from that inspired place of tuned in, I'll often ask myself, what message does my soul want to share today? Or what message, would be inspiring for my community. I just kind of allow that to come through me in a journaling process, and it will easily turn into a Facebook Live I share, or a question, or a blog, or maybe even an entire program, right? Well, that divine download will happen. If we create the space for it, it will. And it just takes consistency and a habit. Another tip, if you're not, if it's hard for you to create this habit, it is like a habit, just like working out. It just kind of takes a minute. It's like, I'm going to do this, and then pretty soon it becomes easier. But if you set a specific time, I find if you set a time, you put it in your calendar like an appointment, and just noticing what your environment, like set your environment up to where it feels like maybe a little sacred space of crystals or candles or oracles or essential oil diffuser, something that's like, okay, this is my little space. This is my sanctuary. This is my time. 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour, whatever it is, start there, because it's a whole lot better than not doing it at all. It really, really is. So let me know if that, what your guys' morning routine is, or if that resonates for you, if you have trouble. This isn't for this, but I definitely do have programs around that, low cost programs for mindset journaling, as well as the energetic mastery piece around really for empaths to thrive in the world. I think that's a huge key of really knowing what's your energy and others in your meditation practice, which will access and open your intuition as well. So let me know in the comments, if you need any help with meditation, you can write meditation or journaling. I'll be happy to share those with you later. The next part I want to talk about, which kind of segues right into this, is I had a question in my group around, what is it? Sometimes I feel overwhelmed about all the details and not having the exact steps all figured out. Does anybody else feel like that? And definitely, I think that all of us can relate to that, right? I mean, as creative entrepreneurs, we have all these ideas, especially when we're new in business. It's like, oh my gosh, you're learning this information about marketing. You're trying to figure out your niche. You're creating things, and it's like there's a lot going on. And I really do think that's where what I just talked about, that meditation and quiet spaciousness, will help you to tune more into you and what's aligned for you and your uniqueness and your purpose work. So I definitely think that's a huge key that helps with that particular question as well. But when I'm feeling overly stressed out, I will definitely just stop. Like if I'm in a day and I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm spinning around, I'm in procrastination, I'm not taking any action, I'm making another cup of coffee, like I'm just doing everything possible. As soon as you become aware, like the awareness is the first step. So when you notice the monkey mind, or you notice that you're, procrastinating or stalling or just frozen, not doing anything, then I just take a moment and I stop and I breathe and I connect with my body. And I just close my eyes and I'll have my feet on the ground. And I'll take a few nice deep breaths. And I know that's a simple tool, but trust me, it does help. In the moment of chaos and flurry, it helps, right? You got to come back to the present moment. First thing that I notice is that when we're all worried about which to do and what we're doing, our energy's in the future a bit. It's a bit ahead of ourselves. And so it's about taking the time to come back and be in your body, right? Which is in the present moment. And that's where focusing on the breath is an easy thing. A lot of you probably already heard I talk about the TLC body meditation I create. It's just like talk, listen, commit to your body's needs, like just tune in right here. Being in nature is very wonderful for that. And I think that's a piece of why exercise is important for that too. It helps you get in your body and move energy as well from not becoming stagnant. So really just take that moment to stop and like tune into your body for a minute, breathe, like start to that will slow the mind down. And then just ask yourself, what is the next step that I can take that's really in alignment with my path and purpose, or alignment with a project that maybe that you're working on. And just keep it really simple and just tune in. It's like, what is that next step that I can take right now to really align me with, my highest path and success for today? And just notice what thoughts or ideas come to you, right? Sometimes it might even be, go take a 5-minute walk. And then, and there's been times where I've argued with that, right? Have you ever argued with your intuition or your angels? I have. Type in the comments below, right? It doesn't work out too well. That's when I know that fears, I've got resistance and fear going on, right? When I'm arguing with my intuition or my spiritual support team. So it's about tuning in, what's the next line step? And then notice I remember one time in particular, I was trying to get this workshop ready and it just wasn't going. And it was like, well, go take, a 5-minute dance break. And I'm like, okay, like I get the feeling or the idea. So I'm like, oh, it doesn't seem related. Or it does to me, but maybe it won't seem related to you, right? And so then I just I did it. It's like, if you want to skip it and say, no, I don't have time for that. I'm just going to, no, but what's the next step in my business? Like, what's the next step to the work I have to do? Well, then you're bypassing, right? Your body really might need that to shake out the energy or the anxiety or the whatever's going on for you, right? So I took the 5-minute dance break, right? I do that. Okay, so now what's the next step? And you might get 1 or 2 steps at a time. And then as you take the 1 or 2 steps at a time, you'll start to realign yourself and your energy to flow, right? And that really, really, really helps. And so that 5-minute dance break was over. And the next thing you know, it's like, okay, what's my next step? It's like, get some water, get hydrated. I'm like, okay, you're right. I've been drinking a lot of coffee, which makes the mind go wired, right? So if you're highly sensitive, I don't know if you've got the nudge, but for a lot of us, caffeine can kind of send you more into worry than you would be otherwise. So I had the water, and then I come back. It's like, okay, now what? Just breathe and write how you're feeling. So it's like I started that, and then bam, before you know it, I'm downloading the whole thing, because my intention was, how do I get back in alignment with my highest path and really getting this so-and-so project done today, right? And so that's a really helpful way. If you're super stressed out, I've done recently a video in my group around resistance. So, tapping or even just journaling for 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, I'm so, I don't know, like stream of consciousness. Why are you procrastinating? Where's that in my body? You can feel it. Where's it in your body? And just that awareness and attention to it will start to shift it. Or maybe you journal about it. I'm feeling so frustrated. I have no clue what I'm doing. I feel like a crazy, blah, blah, blah. Like just let this spew out, even if it makes no sense in your journal, with the intention of shifting to alignment. And pretty soon you'll start to get a next step, and that anxious energy or that stuckness or that fear will move through you, right? So those are just some tips and ideas that I do that could help you get in there. The other thing that I would address is putting too many things on the calendar, like really focusing in on, what is your priority? I have a workbook, Aligned to Soul Success workbook. That's a free workbook that I could share with you if you want. That is a great thing to do this time of year anyways, because as we grow and shift, our purpose work and our desires grow and shift and evolve as well. And sometimes we forget to tune back into that. So type success below and I'll get you that link as well. But it's just a free workbook. But essentially, knowing what your priorities are, knowing what you actually desire, having that clarity of that vision will help you choose to put things on your calendar and not overextend yourself. I think we tend to put way too many things on our to-do list, like bite off more than we can chew, which will cause the stress. And I think that oftentimes we put too many, over engage ourselves, and that is not creating the space. So it's about having boundaries in the outer world, really tuning in and asking, is this something that I want to do, or is this something that I feel I should do, right? Is this still aligned for me? And so I try to really be cognizant of that. As well, because if we don't have enough spaciousness, enough internal time, most of us are intuitive, highly sensitive, empathic, spiritual beings, and that we're aware of consciously tapping into. And so that sometimes that overstimulation can cause us to just spin out of control, right? And so it's about going back to those basic tools that I mentioned earlier and just looking at, what are your top 3 things, 1 or 2 or 3 maybe things today that are a priority, and the rest, if I get them done, then that's like cherry on top, right? Instead of having this list that doesn't get quite finished and then that carries over to the next day, and now you have twice as many things, and before you know it, you're just looking at this wall of things to do and you're just like, oh, I don't want to do any of it, right? I think we've all probably felt like that. And so it's just tuning into what is the next step I can take today to be aligned with my highest outcome, right? And also following the passion and the flow. Like if you have a lot of projects, then tuning into, well, what are you most inspired by right now? What do you feel inspired to share? What is your soul craving to share? And sometimes just being in that space for a little bit will shift you back into the action and movement forward as well. Let me see if there's anything else I jotted down. Last thing I think about, the question was also not knowing exact steps to take, like being able to move forward without knowing the exact steps to take. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for joining. Say hi as you're here and where you're from. It's really fun. I don't know who's here. Is learning how to surrender and trusting the process, right? It really is learning how to surrender and trust the process. I think that sometimes we think it has to be all perfectly laid out, this perfect plan. And sometimes that will get us stuck, right? Stuck in either not taking action or stuck in taking action in a direction that we think we need to do, that we should do, and not realize that we veered off course. And so this process of just surrendering and trusting yourself to be able to tune in and recognize the guidance and the synchronicities and where you're being nudged to do and the actions that you're being to take, right? As well as having the courage to take the action. So we have to do our part with that for sure, which might require a little inner work, right? As we go along the way. I think creating spiritual businesses is definitely the most intense personal development game that I've been on. And I did a lot of personal development work for many years prior to starting this online business. So we're constantly working our edge there, our resistances and fears. And then also but learning to trust, like trusting the universe, trusting God, trusting that the answers will be revealed, and letting go of the how, right? I think keeping your eye on the big vision, tuning back in and checking in with the daily 1 or 2 steps at a time, and then surrendering the need to know how as you go. It really requires you to cultivate trust and faith in the process, in you and in the universe, that the universe has your back, and trusting that you'll follow it. And so I mean, there's a lot to this, obviously. Sometimes there's forgiveness of yourself, like trusting yourself is a big process in and of itself, right? Sinking into forgiving yourself if you betrayed yourself in the past or made choices that maybe didn't pan out so well, and so now it's hard to trust yourself. It's like you just take the baby steps and you'll begin to build that back up again. And the more that you step out of your comfort zone and are willing to feel a little uncomfortable, the more that you'll start to have trust and faith in the process, and just starting with those little things, right? I know when I first started this, I didn't know anything about this stuff, right? So I started just trusting, the intuition of like the small things, the day-to-day choices, the small little things. And then pretty soon I saw the validation of that and more steps would come. And I started just learning to practice that way. And it's gotten to the point where I've literally gotten myself to be able to make $22,000 business investments that have accelerated my business exponentially based on how my body felt, not what my mind was telling me, and not all the fears that wanted to drive this show. So as we really start to cultivate that trust in myself and the universe has my back, and knowing that when I make choices that are aligned with my purpose work, I am fully supported always. And I always have access to the answers when I can just get out of my own way and surrender the fear and the trust and the how. The 1 or 2 steps will happen. And as we begin to take steps, the momentum will build, the clarity will build, and you'll start to get in motion. But the clarity doesn't come in action. That clarity comes in taking a step or two, right? And so just tune into that. What is the step that your soul's guiding you to do today to help you be in alignment with your next steps or with your higher purpose or with your project, right? And I'd love to hear if you want to share how this resonates for you, if you have any experience with this at all. I have, again, the Align to Success workbook is a free workbook that just helps you really get tuned in, in all areas of your life. I feel they all really interact with one another, in terms of sometimes my next step for my business might be go take a drive to the ocean today, right? Like sometimes we need to have that space. And so it's going to change from time to time. I put the link in there as well in the comments so that you can have that if you're interested in that. And yeah, let me know how this resonates for you. Share this with your friends if you think it would be helpful. In the beginning, if you didn't hop on, I talked about the morning routine, and I do have 2 low-cost programs, digital courses, self-studies. One's on elevate your mindset to soul success. So it's journaling and it's creating, it's working through resistance, really low price. And then I like self-study 21-day course. And then I have the energetic mastery for sensitive and spiritual entrepreneurs, which could help you if you have trouble with your meditation or visualization or opening your intuition. So let me know in the comments if any of those would support you as well. Otherwise, I just hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here with me. Be sure to follow my page. I do lots of lives here. I do angel readings, individual card readings. I do everything for spiritual entrepreneurs to really align with your highest path and really awaken to your purpose worth and really create thriving businesses so that you can make the impact and income that you desire. So have a great day. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.